Welcome to Knitting Daily, where yarn and fiber takes center stage. Join knitting expert Uni Zhang, crochet ace Kim Worker, spinning and weaving fiberista Liz Gibson, and favorite stitcher Shay Pendray. Get started with the world's most beautiful fibers and yarns. Meet trend-setting designers, improve or learn new skills, knit along with us, and make time for yarn every day.
Welcome to our episode all about bags. I'm here with Kathy Elkins. Hi, Kathy.
Hi, Kim. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. What do we have here? These are not bags, but they're materials that we can use.
Oh, well, you've got to do some
bags.
planning before you start your bag.
Yes.
And think about some things, because you're going to have a finished product before you know it, and then you've got still some work to do.
Okay.
First and foremost, you need to be thinking about handles, and you think about this as you're starting to knit your bag, because you've got to think about form and functionality. You know, if you've got a small little purse that you're making, you're not going to start thinking about having a big, huge shoulder strap on it. And handles, you can really add a ton of personality to a bag. You know, these are relatively conservative looking, but you can jump in and have some sparkle, and that's just not for an evening bag. And it also plays into what your pattern and or your own design is calling for. Some of these handles, these here and over here, can be attached afterwards, so you have some flexibility with what your choices are.
And they come already with the hardware, so you just sew it to your bag when
you can just sew it to the bag. You can do it on the inside of the bag, the outside of the bag. You could sew this on the outside and then find some other little beading and adorn it. Really, the creativity is whatever you want to put into it.
And then even something like this comes with the buttons that you use to affix to the outside of the bag, so it's got its own design element to it
Exactly,
already.
and I have even seen customers who have taken the time to paint those and really add some personal flair to it, which is very
really
cool.
neat.
When you get down here to the front of the table, these are frame handles, and this you really have to, this would be called for in the pattern, and or you would have to plan to use this type of handle in your design, because you can't attach them after. You'd have to plan to have a knitted flap to attach through here or around the rods there into the design for the handle to hold. And again, like this beautiful metal handle, this is very, very popular right now. But again, you need to think about the bag you're going to attach that to. It doesn't have to be a fancy evening bag, but again, because of size and scale, you really need to think through that process. Once you've got that, then you can get into some closures, and this tends to be my favorite part. I tend to do a lot of knitted handles and not attached ones, but I love closures, and I particularly love big, fun button closures, especially on felted bags.
And so you have a bunch of different assortments of buttons here.
Very fun. I mean, the one that you're holding right now would be the one that I would gravitate to. I would build a bag around that button, and we've seen customers do that, and that's really fun. You can also do a traditional metal closure that is, you attach it into the fabric. It's very unobtrusive, hold your bag shut. You could certainly put in a zipper if you wanted to, which is, you know, more traditional, a little more complex in skill set, but certainly doable.
And then this metal closure is magnetic.
Yes.
You can pull the pieces apart
It pulls
here.
it apart, and you attach it into the bag, and then it secures back together.
Great.
Then comes some fun. Besides the closure itself, gets into some linings. And bags don't always have to be lined, but it does add some structure and stability, which, depending, again, especially if it's not a felted bag, you may want to consider doing.
So nothing falls out of the holes, it doesn't stretch out.
If it's a lace or loose mesh type of pattern, certainly, so things don't fall out, unless, you know, it's like a grocery type of bag when you know, you're carrying bigger items. But even if you just have, I've seen beautiful cotton bags, you know, hand-knit for the springtime that have a nice lining. And you can go something very conservative. This is where you can really let some personality hang out. I mean, you can be all pink kitties on the inside and just a very simple conservative look on the outside, which is a lot of fun. And then if you want a little bit more structure to it, you can use what's called craft canvas or craft mesh. This is the mesh. It's a little bit more flexible, but certainly doubled up with the lining is going to give nice structure to your bag.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Kathy. Next up, Shay and Stephanie Quattrini are on location at a show talking about making art bags using freeform knitting and crochet. We'll be right back.
Knitting Daily has been sponsored in part by Webs, America's Yarn Store, a source for knitting and crocheting yarns and supplies. Yarn.com. Knitting Daily. Make time for yarn every day. The projects and patterns from today's show, plus more ideas and projects, can be found on the web at knittingdailytv.com. This is show 209. Continue knitting daily every day by joining the online Knitting Daily community and receive a free newsletter 5 times a week, filled with step-by-step techniques, inspiring reader-contributed stories, and free patterns. It's about knitting all the time. knittingdaily.com.